दिन दिन हूँ अकबर, दिन का 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 हूँ अकबर। अशहदु अन ला इलाहा इल्ला दिन का, अशहदु अन ला इलाहा इल्ला दिन का, अशहदु अन्ना में तुम या रसूलु दिन का, अशहदु अन्ना में तुम या रसूलु दिन का। हैया अला फ्री थिंकिंग, हैया अला फ्री थिंकिंग। Hayya ala scientific campaign, hayya ala scientific campaign. दिन का हूँ अकबर, दिन का हूँ अकबर, ला इलाहा इल्ला दिन का। दिन का हूँ अकबर, दिन का हूँ अकबर। अशहदु अन ला इलाहा इल्ला दिन का, अशहदु अन ला इलाहा इल्ला दिन का, अशहदु अन्ना में तुम या रसूलु दिन का, अशहदु अन्ना में तुम या रसूलु दिन का। हैया अला फ्री थिंकिंग, हैया अला फ्री थिंकिंग, हैया अला फ्री थिंकिंग, हैया अला फ्री थिंकिंग। दिन का हूँ अकबर, दिन का हूँ अकबर, ला इलाहा इल्ला दिन का। दिन का हूँ अकबर।
Yeah.
Okay.
So
One thing I didn't get was the dinka, like that's the Urdu dinka, or is that some?
Dinga is a spoof god that we have
Okay.
in our place. So we replaced Allah with Dinga,
Yeah.
and we made this song. And you know, this dance which you saw there, it's performed by an ex-Muslim. She performed it and she sent it to me. So I just made it into a video and playing it here.
That's
Okay,
awesome.
so yeah, so this gives them a kind of a chance to introspect into all these things, like if what happens if you replace Allah with Dinga, what happens? Nothing happens. Okay.
Lightning will fall down from the sky and knock you down. Oops, that happened.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway, welcome Mohammed Syed to our channel, to India. So though it's virtual,
Pleasure.
you are on our channel. So, and also on Ex-Muslims of North America channel, we are also going live there, and to the Twitter on my channel. So Zaid or Muhammad, I'll be calling by that name,
Yeah.
because usually people
That's
prefer not to call that.
continental thing. For some reason, Muhammad
Yep.
is avoided.
Yes. So we'll be specifically using that name, Muhammad, multiple times. So the ex-Muslim Muhammad, that's it. So
Well, on Twitter, I go by Muhammad the Atheist, which pisses off a lot of people.
oh yeah. Anyway, so I just wanted to make sure that people recognize you, because more than you, what people might have recognized would be something like this. Like, I'm just showing a few pictures. This is something even I saw, and I was getting a chance to rethink about the beliefs that I was carrying with me from my childhood. This is a hoarding, and I saw the name Ex-Muslims of North America. I was just like, what the hell is this? Okay. So I was mentioning to Aisha even that is this made huge impact, and I don't know why you stopped doing this, or whether you have stopped or not. I'm not sure, but if you have any plans to do this, please do it. That's what I would always suggest, because this is
Yeah.
of a huge impact. It's not just a hoarding which is shown in USA.
Yeah.
It is all over the internet. You search for ex-Muslims, you will be seeing this hoarding. And not just this one, and one another picture is this awesome without Allah.
Yeah.
I think even this is your creative, like,
Yeah.
okay. So this was another picture, another statement, which was giving or driving even me nuts while I was a believer. Okay. So, and I'm pretty sure that that has made multiple people go nuts with the same statement,
Yeah.
awesome without Allah. What happens if Allah is not there? So now we are here with this another website which is notorious among the Muslims. Like even I used to see this whenever we try to search for any of the resources in Islam, like hadith or some Quranic verses, or to know more about something like this. And what happens is people will say that this is controlled by Jews. So you cannot go with this. This is entirely a Jewish project. So
Muhammad
no,
the Jew, don't you know?
So I just want to make sure all of these things, which most of the Muslims might be seeing even today, is the brainchild of this organization, Ex-Muslims of North America, and whom we are introducing to you through one more thing, that is the persecution tracker. And we have even 4 people from our country, South India, Farooq, Anish, Cheganur Maulavi, and TJ Joseph. All these people are from even our neighboring places, like even from my state and from the neighboring state in India. Yeah. So even this is mentioned in this persecution tracker. So for all those people, I always quote this. And even there is one more thing that I just missed quoting here, that is your ex-Muslim survey 2021. So that's another magnificent work that ex-Muslims of North America have done. And this is all the thing that we have to remember. And we have today Muhammad, who is behind all this, the president of ex-Muslims of North America. Welcome to India and to the show. So over to you. We need to listen to you more about your journey and what you are doing and what your future plans are, and more about ex-Muslims of North America. Yeah, please go on.
So to start off with, one of the big reasons we were able to do what we were able to do is we were in America. Like there's a certain privilege of being in America. We don't have a large zealot Muslim population to begin with, and then you have lots of rights in America that you don't have in other parts of the world. So blasphemy laws exist in India. In Europe, you have versions of that to a certain extent. You have offending sensibilities. In America, free speech is an absolute right. It's a part of our constitution. So therefore, you can say anything as long as you're not inciting violence and you're good. So we felt that it was our responsibility to stand up and make a difference when we were privileged enough to do that.
So hardly how many people are behind this ex-Muslims of North America, this organization or this body?
So I started it about 10, 12 years ago. It has ebbed and waned, the program. So from an employee perspective, we have like half a dozen employees. Then we also have volunteers and stuff. At one point, we were running communities. We had about 1,000 people in our communities. This is pre-COVID. Post-COVID, we shut those down for obvious logistical reasons. But it's pretty huge. Overall, the idea for me personally was to try to make it mainstream, in the sense of what you said, that the word ex-Muslim, having that in a public consciousness did not exist when we started. And so in order to change that, we need to have a lot of faces out there, a lot of public facing activism. And that's sort of what we focused on over the first 10 years or so of our existence.
I'm here. Don't panic. Something happened with my camera, so I'll be available with the voice just a few minutes. So before going to more into those things, can you please give us an idea of your background, so where you come from and how you happen to be an ex-Muslim, and something which I read on about you, it's about the 9/11 and how it influenced your journey. So please go on about that.
So personally, like my family moved here in the 70s. We moved back to Pakistan. So I spent a good amount of my childhood in Pakistan. And they're actually immigrants from India to Pakistan from partition. So both of my parents were born in India. But personally, like over here, it was more the reason I left religion was not political, it was personal. I had multiple friends that went through various experiences which informed how I viewed religion. The most prominent was there's a guy that I grew up with that was, I would say, similar intellectually. We competed in school. I would say he's a mirror to who I am. And he went down this very conservative post 9/11 journey where he became a religious zealot. He was in the U.S. He had got citizenship in Canada, I think, and he moved back to Pakistan for religious reasons. And one of the conversations I had with him was related to the torture of the grave and how it's real and how people have actually witnessed demons in the grave. And this is a scientifically educated person that I viewed as my peer. I'm very scientifically minded. Even as a Muslim, I was. Like, I didn't never rejected evolution. I never, like, I didn't understand how religion and that jive together, but I did not reject science. So this person going off the deep end gave me personal pause that how can this happen to somebody that I view as very intellectual, that they go on this weird demon-ridden journey. So my response at that point was, he's wrong, Islam is right, he doesn't understand Islam. So I thought I'd spend some more time trying to understand Islam, study it, and educate him about what he's getting wrong about our shared faith. And I did that, and it turned out that he was actually right, I was wrong, and Islam was wrong. So the entire thing unraveled within a year or so of actually spending some time reading up on it.
All this happened within USA or
Yeah,
outside
within the US.
So you were born in USA?
Yeah, I was born in the U.S., but I
Okay.
spent like half my life in Pakistan. So we went back. Most of my schooling was in Pakistan.
Okay.
So this friend was in Pakistan. I met him in Pakistan. He moved here for college as did I.
So during this period, you came across this 9/11. So how that relates to it?
So no, it doesn't directly relate to it. So I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding. It was more that 9/11 triggered a human rights thing. So the U.S. reacted to 9/11 very brutally. So to me, what's great about America is our focus on laws and human rights and free speech and individual liberty. And after 9/11, the U.S. government rejected that to a great extent. You had Guantanamo Bay going on. You had what happened at Abu Ghraib. People were being tortured. To me, that was anathema. Like I was a Muslim at that point, but I did love America, and to me, that was very, very traumatic. And then seeing a lot of Americans stand up for the rights of Iraqis, for the rights of Afghanis, for the rights of people that were detained. These weren't their co-patriots, and I guess like Indians standing up for the rights of Iraqis or Indians standing up for the rights of Yemenis. Like, to me, that was a very moving thing, that these are people that have nothing directly linking them to the people that are suffering, but they're standing up and fighting back. So that was a huge motivator on how I view the world and individual rights.
Okay. So that was the point where you started talking about the human rights violation within Islam.
The human rights violations in general, the Islam thing came
In
shortly
general.
after that. When you compare the two contexts, like if you view human rights as inalienable for everybody, and then you view Islam, which views as a very Arab supremacist view, and rights are more exclusive for Muslims compared to non-Muslims, and how they view non-Muslims as inferior. You can't really hold those two views without some significant cognitive dissonance. So if you believe human rights are paramount, you can't really be look up to Muhammad, the Arab. Like, you can't look up to that guy. That guy was not a nice person. Today he would be a criminal, essentially, from a human rights perspective.
Yeah. So now moving on to Exmna, Ex-Muslims of North America, founding of that organization, and I would say one of your biggest achievement would be the Ex-Muslim survey, because that gave us, even as a person, I started watching your channel, your website, and going through the content over there as a believer, and now I view the same things as a non-believer. So for you, it's your product or your idea which came out once you were an ex-Muslim. So for me, it's not like that. I have both way, a perspective which operates that way. So in that way, I would say this survey was something like a milestone for the ex-Muslim population, ex-Muslim community all over the world. We used to code that, and we get a better idea, especially with regards to how the human rights violations are posing a biggest threat to the faith within Islam. Like, more people are leaving out of Islam just because of that. So over the year, with the advent of this social media, internet, and all these things, how do you see the shift, the transformation within Islam?
So often it seems like you need something to poke, like with me, it was with my friend becoming super religious, something that starts you down that journey. But once you start down that journey, most people today, Muslim, Hindu, Christian, Jewish, atheist, whatever, the average human today is a much more moral person than somebody 1500 years ago, no matter what aspect you look at, from a women's rights perspective, slavery, anything, no matter what aspect you look at. So if you compare the morals of the 7th century, or if you look at Christianity 1st century, or Judaism, or any of the religions, to anybody today, they will see the flaws immediately. The only reason they don't see it is because it's their religion, so they become a little defensive of it. So if there's anything that starts poking at that, they honestly view it, they leave religion. It happens very, very quickly. So social media plays a big part in that, because previously you could be isolated. So as a child, I'm pre-social media as a kid, I never encountered atheists. I never had those conversations. Now you can't really avoid them. Now, if you bring it up, you'll have an atheist showing up and saying, really, is that what your book says? And then they have to try to defend it. And so some people are knee-jerk, they'll defend it, they won't look into it. But the average honest person will look into it, and then they'll have trouble. It may not be that day they leave, but they'll have trouble, and that will nag and be in their head like, why? Until eventually, at a certain point, they'll have to accept reality. Personally speaking, that's sort of what happened to me. Like, I saw the flaws, I saw slavery, I saw like all the things Muhammad did, but I was still Muslim. And I was having a conversation with a friend who had leukemia, and he was cured of it, and he was thanking God about it. And in my mind, what was playing was that, what's the statistical probability of somebody getting cured of leukemia in general in the population? We know that. And you're attributing to a miracle. I know what actually happened. And then from there, it went in my head that I know that all of these things he's saying are bullshit. But I am following it, even though I know internally that's bullshit. Why am I a Muslim? I know this is I'm lying to myself. It's not just that I'm lying to others. I'm lying to myself.
So you mean to say that the speed with which a person used to leave religion in the past, leave Islam in the past, and when it is compared with what is happening today, that speed, the rate is different, the speed has increased, and for that social media has helped, and even your organization has helped in that. Is that what you mean to say?
Information is what changes
easily.
Things. So if you're able to access information, look it up for yourself and figure things out. So Christianity, if you look at Christianity, like what Christianity today versus what it used to be, it died at the hands of the printing press. Information became available widely. The Catholic Church broke. All of that stuff happened. That's what's happening with Islam right now. Social media is the printing press of Islam.
Yeah, absolutely. So people here are asking something about the membership in ex-Muslims of North America, how that works, and there's a problem that is being shown here. There is the link on the Exmna site to join. Volunteer does not work. What's the process to get involved? That's one question that I get here.
So you can email us at info@exmuslims.org. I'll check what's going on with the link. I'm not sure about that. We have a web designer. They can take a look at that. But generally speaking, like, we can use volunteers in 100 different ways. You mentioned WikiIslam at the beginning. We need a lot of people over there. One of the things we're working on with that specifically is we're trying to translate it into multiple languages. We launched an Arabic version of it. We're working on a French version of it right now. So there's a lot of volunteer opportunities, a lot of work that we could do if we had more people.
In that way, I would say you should definitely clear that, because there are I would say thousands of Muslims from India staying in USA who are ex-Muslims now. So you will be there won't be a human resource problem for you in that way. So you must clear that.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem. Like I wasn't aware of that issue, but it'll be a couple of hours.
Yeah. So there's a huge population from India living in USA and who are ex-Muslims, and we are in touch with them. But there's a problem. A geographical isolation is there. Like, it's not accessible always. So they wanted to be in a community, like as you said. This the feeling of being in a community, like you are not alone, you are heard, and your problem is not something which is isolated. That gives them a confidence. So for that, even any organization, whether it be small or big or any, that will be helpful. And I think you can reach out to the email ID that he mentioned here, so things will be easier for you. So the next thing which I would like to ask you is about what the audience here is also asking you. It's about WikiIslam, how that came out and what's going on behind.
So the idea behind it is generally to have that information widely accessible, where we just talked about social media. Like once you search for something, to be able to find honest, unbiased, factual information.
First thing first, is it yours, Ex-Muslims of North America, WikiIslam?
So
what's
we
the
are
relation?
rented and operated. It's owned by Ex-Muslims from North America. It was started by another individual, an ex-Muslim that's based in America. He started it, but due to threats and stuff, he was not able to continue the work. And I spoke with him about it. This was over 10 years ago. And we took it over from him. As an organization, we could handle it better than he was, from a threat perspective. And so we've been running it for, I think, about 10 years now. And one of the things we did was we hire some staff to rewrite the entire thing to make the language more neutral. And the point is that we want citations. So if you're looking for example, Muhammad and Aisha, or if you're looking at war and Islam's attitude
slavery,
about any specific, it could be even a minor thing, prayers or Shia Sunni differences. You want to look at that specific thing. You don't want my opinion on that. You don't want RF's opinion on that. You want what actually is in the verses. So we try to make it as neutral and as encyclopedic as possible.
Academic
work.
work.
Exactly. So that's been our overarching goal for the past 10 years, to make it neutral and factual and have as many citations as we can possibly muster.
So at this point, I just wanted to reiterate what we had in private, like any support from India for translations, like to Hindi or to Malayalam. We had already spoken about that. So I'm just openly on live. I'm just saying it again. So we are here to support on that. So it was already mentioned. I just wanted to make sure that it's heard and it's on face that we are saying this, and we are on it, and we are ready to do that. Okay, we can speak on that more.
So just one example, there's an article about that, scientific inaccuracies in the Quran. That's one of our most popular articles, because people look into it and it's like, holy shit, like all of this is wrong. And having that available in languages that are indigenous to whoever, like be it Malaysia, be it Somalia, be it India, whatever languages they speak, goes a long, long way. So that's why we're trying to get it out in as many languages as possible.
Right. And is there any plan to come up with an app on this WikiIslam?
No,
a web app or something,
because the website serves the same purpose. You can access it. We have a mobile version of it from a website perspective. So if you go to it, it adapts to. It's got a responsive format. So an app isn't really needed.
Okay. So anyway, we are here for this translation purposes, like Hindi, Malayalam, and these were the two languages that we committed. So
one other thing beyond languages, variations. So for example. One weakness that we have right now is we're very Sunni focused. We don't have as much content regarding Shiaism. So Shiaism has its own version of hadith that are their own way of messed up. Then you have Dawoodi Bohra, that's common in India, for example. There are lots of different smaller subsects that we don't cover that well, and they're idiosyncrasies. So if you're from a smaller subsect, or if you're Shia or any of the other Bohra or whatever, and you want to write about those specific things, we would love to have that content. We would love to have that information.
Yeah. Let's have a discussion here, and we'll get back to you on that very soon. Thank you so much for this wonderful website, WikiIslam, this idea for the founder and for the people behind that who is doing that. And for that, I'm just appreciating you for taking or giving the hand for that. So that's a wonderful thing which you can do for the ex-Muslims all over the world. Not just ex-Muslims, even for any other person.
Yeah, exactly. So the average American, the average Indian, the average person that wants to get factual information. There are people that are, say, politically right, that are trying to demonize Muslims. Having the factual information goes a long way. The same for the left, that are trying to make Islam seem this wonderful, peaceful, beautiful thing. That's not true either. Both of these things, like if you have factual information, you can draw your own conclusions.
Right. Okay, so now I just wanted to make sure why there's no terrorist attack over ex-Muslims of North America website, no hacking attempt or something like that.
We have that
Jihadis
constantly.
Can you please tell me something about that? How you face
So-
that? How the terrorism works over there?
So I don't know how to call it terrorism. Like that's
Okay.
a loaded term, but we are attacked constantly. Like we've rewritten our website multiple times. That's probably why that thing is breaking that you were mentioning. WikiIslam, almost every month we get a denial of service attack, massive, like millions of hits happening where they're trying to exploit its weaknesses. And we spend a good amount of human capital, volunteer work, finances to prevent those from going down.
Okay.
So from an Islamic perspective or any religious perspective, silencing opposition is the easiest path forward. If nobody can speak up against you, the information isn't available, it's hard for people to leave the faith or question the faith. So silencing us is very important for them. So we're constantly attacked from all over the world. Like it's just a par for the
So-
course.
Okay, so it could be like this. Maybe one of the best websites with all security features could be yours now.
I
with
would
all
say so,
this.
particularly for WikiIslam. Like our own website isn't attacked as much as WikiIslam. WikiIslam is relentless. Honestly, every couple of days
Okay.
there's another attack.
Okay, so I think that could be moved as a case study for those people building the cybersecurity.
We've actually consulted with a few other American organizations that don't get it as much. They get it once in a while. We've told them about how we're doing, what we're doing to help them out.
Okay, so and what are your future ideas? Like after seeing all these hurdles, you can even speak about the hurdles that you face now, like the operational hurdles from the fellow Muslims over there. Like we always see or hear about the Muslim population over there turning violent and all such things, like going to the court, filing against you, and also how's that journey?
So again, going back to the difference between America and the rest of the world, America is very open and receptive to people like us, like people that dissent, people that speak up. So
Even the
laws-
Muslims,
No, I'm saying the legal system itself.
legal system.
So
Okay.
it's very hard for anybody to be able to make that case. So, for example, in America, you could this is an actual case that happened in the 1960s, where 1945 we had the World War II, Holocaust, all of that happened. In the 1960s, Nazis marched in a city in Illinois that was a Jewish city, and human rights organizations defended the Nazis' right to march.
Okay.
Like imagine that happening where the greatest disaster in human history happened, and 10, 15 years later, the people that were involved in that are marching again. And human rights organizations are saying they have the right to march. So to me, that's what's beautiful about America, that it doesn't matter what you're saying, you have the right to say it. So legally, we don't encounter that many issues. Personally, yes, we do, because obviously the average Muslim can be an asshole and would want to kill us. And we do get that threat, so we have to be private about our own individual identities and where we live and that kind of stuff. But from a legal perspective, it's been wonderful being in America.
Okay.
From an obstacle perspective, we've had, you were mentioning the political situation with wokeism and things like that a bit. So
Yeah.
we've over the past 10 years, the conversation has shifted dramatically where the welcome we used to get has largely disappeared. It used to be that people would welcome us for who we were, what we were doing, what we were standing up for. But the conversation has become so polarized that either you align with the left or you align with the right. If you refuse to do either, they hate you. It doesn't matter what your individual beliefs are. Either you 100% agree with us or you're evil. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
So that's been a huge obstacle lately.
Okay. So you mean to say that that's the biggest obstacle that you are facing right now?
I wouldn't say biggest, but it is one of the primary ones, yes. Because
Okay.
you can't speak out, like as ex-Muslims, we're a small percentage of the population. Even Muslims are a small percentage of the population West. So you need others to help you out, to air out what's going on, be it news organizations, be it human rights organizations. And if they reject you to begin with, if they're not interested in your stories, that elevation won't happen. To give a specific example, there was a girl over here in Mississippi that was, her family tried to send her back to Yemen. They weren't wanting her to get educated. She was 18 years old. She reached out to us for help. We got her out of where she was and got her a job, and she was doing relatively okay. Her family made a fake charge that she stole money from them, had her arrested, threw her in jail, and they were trying to bully her to come back home so they could fly her out to Yemen. So it was a huge issue. And if it was another group, it would be covered wall to wall that this happened, and the police were somewhat complicit in going along with those charges. We actually had to hire multiple lawyers that challenged the case, both over here and then in her home state where she was in jail. We won the case, but she was in jail for multiple months. But no news organization covered that. We reached out to multiple news organizations that weren't interested. So that sort of thing was not the case in the past. In the past, the coverage was much more favorable.
So was that or something similar to that made you to start this persecution tracker on your website? What led you to that?
So that was more, there's no unified resource for what we're going through. Generally, there's human rights violations across the board. And to focus on the specific issue that we have, it's hard for people like you, for example, to find that information. So a part of our work, like as an organization, has been trying to enable other people, because obviously we can't do all of the work. Like I'm not in India, I'm not in Malaysia, I'm not in Somalia. So be it WikiIslam, be it Persecution Tracker, collecting the right information so that other activists can use that in their activism. So they can talk about what's actually going on. They can cite the specific cases when they're making an argument. They can cite the specific laws. So that's sort of been our animating philosophy, to make it easy for Muslims to access information and to make it easy for human rights activists to speak about the issues.
Yeah, I have used it multiple times. So the Muslims come here and ask me, show me at least one person who has been persecuted by Muslims. I'll just take out this website and throw at them. Now you count, sit and count and let me know when you finishes it.
And those are people that were in the news. Like there are lots of cases.
Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah, don't worry, it's a thunderstorm. I thought it's a missile.
So lots of cases happen locally that don't reach international news. These are ones that we were able to get from actual news sources. So for example, if there's a small village in Pakistan where somebody is killed or loses his rights in some way, they're kicked out of their house for being an atheist or anything like that, we won't hear about that. We personally know of those cases from individual context somewhat, but every case that we've documented on the Persecution Tracker is one that has been covered by news media that we can verify independently. So it's a small subset of what's actually happening.
Yeah. So what are your future goals, like your plans moving ahead, how things are?
One of the things like that we've been so I would view it as multiple phases. The first phase was where we were trying to get the word out about ex-Muslims, provide resources to ex-Muslims. So now I think to a great extent we've achieved that. Like ex-Muslim is a common word. Muslims know ex-Muslims. Like the word, they're mad about it. Like so this was a watershed moment personally. There was a conference arranged in Australia about ex-Muslims, about leaving religion, and they quoted us and had our videos in that conference about how terrible the world is because we exist.
Oh, so by Muslims?
By Muslims. So it's to the point that where they're arranging conferences quoting us in a negative light. To me, that's wonderful, because then people in the audience, I'm willing to bet there's a certain percentage that were questioning or were atheists, and okay, I'm not alone. That goes such a long way. So that was phase one, where we wanted to change that dynamic, and I think to a great extent we succeeded. Phase two right now is we're looking at more of a legislative angle. So what can we do to make it easier for ex-Muslims in general? Legislatively, from an asylum perspective, from a human rights perspective. So we're focusing on the US government, focusing on the UN. One of the things we did was there was a blasphemy resolution passed at the US Congress, where the US Congress specifically condemned blasphemy laws and said the US foreign policy must orient towards eliminating these laws and sanctioning these countries in some meaningful way. So that was that's the first time that actually ever happened, where blasphemy laws was discussed at that level. So we're trying to push the US government to take a more active stance on that. And then on the international stage, we're showing up at the UN, we're showing up at various human rights forums. So previously it used to be Muslims that were there. And one of the biggest things about activism is actually being in the room. So when we show up and we talk about these issues, it changes the dynamic where Muslims are just talking about their persecution, which is real, and I'm completely sympathetic to that. But the persecution done by Muslims is also a factor and also needs to be considered and also needs to be resolved.
Okay. So I think that's a big thing to do, right? So might take in even more years to complete.
Yeah, definitely. But
Okay.
this is a lifetime project in the sense of you and I will long be gone, and other people will be continuing this work.
Mm. Any attempts to redefine this word Islamophobia and do something about it?
So we've spoken about it at length. So it's a loaded word that is a conversation stopper. And so I'm concerned about anti-Muslim bigotry, for example. Like it's a real issue. People do
Yeah.
suffer,
Right.
be it in India, be it in America, all over the world. That is a real concern. But Islam is not Muslims. And you will find time and time again that advocacy groups on the Islamic side, on the Muslim side, will try to blur that line. I'm for the rights of every individual Muslim. I don't give a shit about Islam. Islam is a terrible religion. And so every time they try to blur that line, they're using Muslim bodies to defend their bad faith. So separating that two is very important. So we use the phrase anti-Muslim bigotry. We don't use the phrase Islamophobia, and we encourage other people to do that as well. So Muslims, like I was alluding to, that average person today is better than Muhammad was. The average Muslim today is better than Muhammad was. So every Muslim alive, I would say, maybe not every, maybe 99.99% of Muslims alive today are better than Islam. Islam
Why
is a
don't
7th
you
century idea.
Why don't you make a hoarding with that statement and place it all over USA so that we can share it?
So it's not as easy, even in the US, due to
Okay.
violence, in the sense that they're afraid, the advertisers are afraid. So when we did
Okay.
those billboards, it took us multiple months to find enough advertisers that were willing to put up those billboards. And those billboards were very peaceful and non-controversial. We're ex-Muslim, we exist. It wasn't saying anything like that. But
Okay.
yeah, we aim to push those boundaries. We do plan to do more hoardings like that, more billboards like that in the future, and we do
Is that
push
is that project still on, or
yeah,
is
that
it
project
on
is still on.
hold?
We're planning on it right now.
Okay.
So private companies versus like, they're obviously concerned about their employees. So with the comic, for example, so one of the comics with those billboards, one of the ones we tried and were rejected by everybody was about Barack. We had an artist draw a comic about Barack, making fun of Barack, and we wanted to place those on billboards. Every single company rejected it. No, we're not going to touch it. Due to the whole comic controversy that has happened in the past. So they didn't want to be targeted by Muslims, and they were afraid in America and said, we're not going to touch this.
Okay, so if that happens in America, that means what can happen in other place? Like
Exactly.
you
So
can imagine in
I would
India.
say it's the most free country, and people here are scared of. So it's not governmental fear; it's the average Muslim,
Yes.
and it only takes one crazy person. So most people are peaceful. One or two crazy people is enough to cause havoc.
Yep. So that's not predictable too. That's the
Yeah, exactly.
biggest issue. Yeah. You cannot predict who is going to create the ruckus. It's totally unpredictable.
Yeah. So
Okay.
my personal philosophy, what you did in the beginning with the Azan mockery thing, is the only solution to that is flood the zone. Have so much blasphemy that they can't. Who are you going to target? So with the ex-Muslim stuff, what we did, I didn't try to be the face of it. I started the organization, but I am the ex-Muslim. I tried to get more and more people. We did a documentary. I don't know if you've seen those. We did a bunch of mini documentaries where we highlighted the individual journey of ex-Muslims because I wanted more faces out there. So you want to target a figurehead, that's easy. If there are a million ex-Muslims speaking out, who are you going to target? And the same thing applies to blasphemy. So a million people are blaspheming. Which one are you going to be targeting? You can't.
Yeah.
So the solution to this problem is, like, the West won't solve this problem. People like you and I are going to solve this problem by speaking out. The more of us that speak out, the more of us that make fun of Islam, that challenge Islam, the harder it is for them to silence us. So if there are a million ex-Muslims speaking up, the blasphemy problem automatically goes away. You can't target that many people.
So then I'll have to go for a belly dance version of that song. That Azan.
Sure, as much as possible. I don't know if you saw the Surah Corona thing we did. When the
Corona,
when the COVID-19 stuff was going on, there was an French Algerian atheist, Gilou. He wrote a mock Surah Corona, and
I've seen that. Like I have listened to that.
So we took that and made a Quranic recitation of that. We got somebody that was very good at doing that. He had it recited, and we posted it, and we translated it to multiple languages as well. And it went viral. We got fatwas from Malaysia, from a bunch of different countries. And the verses on those are things like wash your hands with soap. Like,
Yeah,
it's
but
very,
in
very
Arabic.
anodyne. Yeah, but in Arabic. So if you, as a, if you read through it, there's zero objectionable content there. But due to the fact that it sounds like the Quran, it pissed them off tremendously.
Yeah. So, to be honest, during that time, I think I had written to you with my versions of Arabic versions, like the Quran's, the verses or the surahs that I had made. So I'm requesting your attention to those mails so that you can also try with the recitations and do that. So
Sure.
so we can make that into a competition itself, like. If you
Yeah,
can,
sure. That would be great. Like the idea behind it, the way we marketed was that Islamically, you can't reproduce the Quran.
Yes.
And here you go. This is a version of it. And
One, two, three.
Yeah. What was funny about that specific thing was due to the reciter, he was he was an ex-Muslim, but he was trained in the Quran and he could beautifully recite things. Yeah, Qiraat. So the way he did it was so beautiful that it sounded like the Quran. And you had people that listened to it, and we had ex-Muslims tell us that they played it in their family gatherings and nobody recognized it as not the Quran. They thought it was the real deal.
Yeah, there's a similar incident for me. Like in one of our family WhatsApp groups, I just shared one verse like that, which I made as a surah. I just pasted it into the WhatsApp group, and they were all putting thumbs up and all such things. So nobody cared what that meant. Like, it was just like a parody to Kul Huwallahu Ahad, Allahu Samad. I was just making a parody to that. So people doesn't care about the meanings or what it is in that. They just go with the recitation and the text.
Yeah, because that's the only way they've encountered that, right? They haven't encountered another direction. And the insanity that if it sounds a certain way and it's Arabic, it must be religious. Holy hell. And so getting people to break out of the Arabic is religious thing is a big deal as well.
So I love the way of dealing this, or the understanding by which you are moving forward. That is, it's not just about being too much academic or too much on the mocking side. You mean to say that there's a balance which we should keep, and more onto this mocking means very difficult for the Muslims to defend this. Is it that way?
So I would say that my definition of what's right and what's wrong is different than your definition of what's right and wrong, and that'll change by location, by person.
No virtue signaling. That's what.
No, I'm not talking about virtue signaling. I'm talking about simply that everybody's context is different. So things that I do are deeply offensive to other people. Other ex-Muslims think that what I'm doing is wrong. I don't know if you know Yasmin Muhammad. She's an ex-Muslim. And so one thing we did was we want to promote conversations with Muslims. So we went to, there's a big conference over here, Islamic Society of North America has 50,000 Muslims show up. So we sent a bunch of ex-Muslims there and had conversations with them. What do you think about ex-Muslims, our human rights, people are being killed, and what the religion says about that? And the conversations went wonderfully. But she was very unhappy with the fact that we went there. She thought it was inappropriate. So she's an ex-Muslim. She just thought that that was a wrong thing to do. So everybody's line on what is okay and what is not okay is going to be different. You have to decide for yourself. I have to decide for myself. And going back to the Isna thing, what was amazing and hilarious was that all of the Muslims, like not all, 70% of the Muslims were very receptive and were pro what we were doing and said our rights matter. There were 20-30% were hostile to us. But more than that, the hostility we got was from white Americans. They were mad at us. They didn't want to talk to us. They wanted us to go away. The Muslims weren't that hostile. It was the outsiders, the left-leaning kind of Americans that were basically screw you.
Yeah, that's right. I second that, because we used to get all sort of death threats and abuses and everything on our comment section. But the moment you step out and you meet a Muslim out there, they're just normal human beings, and they just we can feel their facial expressions, and we can find that they're too much uncomfortable with the way what we are saying, and the kind of indignation that they might be having. But still, they will be a little bit of
they're human beings just like us. So
they're just human beings. That's it.
Some people would have, so like the average, even within your family, probably there are some people that get angry easily, some people that don't get angry. Like, it's a human thing. Some people are more easily irritated, some people aren't. But the solution to that is have it out there, so it's not something that's unique. They don't. The first time you encounter something, you're taken aback by it. But if it's something you grew up with and you see every day, the billboards we were talking about, if there was a comic mocking Islam that you saw when you're 5, you saw when you were 10, you saw when you were 15, you saw when you were 20, there's very little chance that the one you saw at 25 will make you mad.
Yeah. So I think this has given a bigger picture than I expected, and I think even the viewers might be having the same opinion. Like, a lot of things are going on, like how this whole ex-Muslim movement is going forward, and the issues that we are facing, and how we are tackling that, and the legislative obstacles, even the obstacle from the wokes and other things, all things we have spoken here. And I just wanted to ask you before we close, that is something that you wish to speak, something which I have not asked you, anything?
So I would say it's the general stuff that you and I are both interested in, the state of the world right now, like in the sense of you have, I'm sure similar things are dynamic exist in India with Hinduism and the rise of the right over there, and you have the rise of the left over there. That's trying, like, the world is messed up. Like 15 years ago, it wasn't like this. So it's easy to try to fall into one camp or the other. Like, I know many ex-Muslims that have gone far left, and many ex-Muslims that have gone far right. In the sense of, it's easy to say that this is my home and I align and I'm going to agree with them, rather than this is what my principles are and this is what I believe. So it's hard to stand up and say, I disagree with all of you all of you all are wrong, and I will stand up for the human rights of everybody and the right of everybody to speak and blaspheme, and I don't care what you have to say about that, how mad that makes you. So I think that's our role, because we're perfectly in the place where we humanize Muslims because our family are Muslims. My mom is Muslim, my sister is Muslim. So it's very hard for us to demonize them. And then we also see the bullshit where people are racializing us, people are bigoted towards us, and again, that's a left and right issue. The left views us as, the phrase I've used is, there's a noble savage and noble barbarian. So the political right, at least in America, tends to view us as noble as barbarians. Sorry, not noble barbarian. Barbarian savages kind of thing. So like, we're outsiders, we're uncivilized, we're horrible. Like, I'm talking about Muslims. And the left views us as poor little children that can't think for themselves, and all the bad things that happen are a result of other people. Rather than we're individuals and we make good choices and bad choices, we have good ideas and bad ideas. And I think we're uniquely suited to navigate that and point out the falsehood of both sides of that argument.
So, okay, so in this picture, when the wokes fall in, like, and the pseudo seculars, that's the way we call them.
Yeah.
How the picture is getting complicated, the betrayal of the seculars.
So it's a matter of them tying themselves too much to the political left. The political left is going a certain way. They're going woke, they're going whatever. What is your guiding principle? Is it secularism or is it leftism? If it's secularism, you're going to stand with human rights of individuals. You're going to stand with the rights of ex-Muslims, and the human rights of Muslims as well. But often what happens is these people claim to be for secularism, but their heart is with political leftism. So we need to force that dichotomy on them. That, like, same way we do Muslim, right? They have cognitive dissonance where they say one thing and they also adhere to another thing. They say human rights matter, but they also worship, kind of pseudo worship Muhammad, who is the antithesis of that. So the same thing with this, with wokeism, for example. They're very good at censoring. So from a secular perspective, we believe in free speech. Everybody should have the right to say whatever they want, absent violence. So if somebody's saying something you disagree with, are you going to stand up and champion their right to say that? With the woke, they don't do that. They want to silence you. They don't want you to say things that are uncomfortable. And they use things like, okay, this will hurt somebody's feeling. This is a minority group. We shouldn't offend them. Which to me is racism. Either free speech exists for all, everybody can and should be challenged and are equal human beings, or they're not. If you don't believe minorities being equal to you, then say that straight up. Be the racist person that you're acting out as. But they're not challenged as much. Same as the Muslim thing, they're not challenged as much. When they're challenged, often they will make the right choice.
We have an interesting question to you on this thing. That is, how does Muhammad and his organization confront or deal with wokes and left liberals in his country while still trying to keep away from the right wing?
So to me, it's about principles. What are our specific principles? And we stick with those principles. So human rights, secularism, free speech, those are our guiding lights. So if you're against that, we're against whatever you're doing. And it's not overall like this organization did this one bad thing, so we're not going to work with them. That's not true. We work with Muslims. So there's a group over here, Muslims for Progressive Values. We worked them multiple times. We don't, and I had this conversation, a heated argument with them once, where they were saying that we're too abrasive and angry and offensive to
Muslims.
what they stand for. And I was like, of course we are. We don't believe in what you believe in. If you want us to agree with Islam, we don't believe in Islam. We believe it's false. So we'll never have any agreement on that. So if you want to stick to that, okay, we'll argue till the end of time. On the other hand, we do agree that every human being has the same individual human rights. So we can focus on the things we agree on and work together to achieve those. Or we can quibble over our differences. So we work with them. It was pretty productive, and the same with other woke or right-wing organizations. It's not a blanket screw you. It's if you're doing something that we agree with, we're happy to work with you. If you're doing something we disagree with, we will publicly, loudly say things against that. So over here, there's a group called the Hindu American Foundation. They're a right-wing Hindu group, and they try to silence criticism of Hinduism. There was some school book controversy in California where they were talking about casteism, and they worked very hard to try to silence that. So we stand up against what they're doing. That's wrong. Like Hinduism has its flaws just like Islam does, and they should be pointed out, and everybody should be educated about those. So, and on the other hand, if they were doing something about human rights, we have no issue working with them regarding the human rights issues.
Recently, there was an incident where a few states in the U.S. banning casteism and caste-related engagements like that. So, are you aware of that? The places and
tertiary, like in California and a few other places. So it's the same thing. Like, so from an Islam perspective, you have Shia Sunni discrimination that we encounter. So if you move a bunch of Shias and Sunnis to America, they'll have that same discrimination play out over here. The same thing, the Hindu dynamics, casteism exists over there. You have a bunch of them over here. The dynamics start playing out over here. In the workplace, for example, you'll have somebody that will discriminate. And we, as a legal system, don't allow that. So it was more codifying that the same sort of everybody is the same, all laws apply equally. It was being codified in certain states that your religion does not exclude you from human rights. It doesn't give you a waiver.
And any comment about your home country, like your previous country, Pakistan,
so
and the
I was born here.
state
Technically,
of
it's not really my home country, but I did spend a lot of time over there. But yeah,
the
it's a terrible place to be.
previous home. Yeah,
it's a terrible place. Like in the sense that when I was there, it wasn't as bad. It didn't. Every few years, it gets worse and worse and worse. The government over there cracked down on atheism. Like this is about 7-8 years ago, where the intelligence services, ISI, infiltrated Facebook groups, infiltrated atheist like they're not organizations, but communities, and arrested people based on that. So there's nothing positive to say over there, but what's the future? The future is people like you and I changing hearts and minds of individual people. So there are surveys done in America, you've probably seen this, where 23% of people that were raised Muslim have left the faith. In North Africa and Arab Muslim countries, it's similar, 18 to 20% people have left the faith. That's a massive number, just 1 in 5.
Right.
I have no reason to think that isn't the case in India or Pakistan as well. But as those numbers increase, they become 30%, 40%, 50%, the religious at a certain point will have to back down. So the solution is the work we're doing, get more ex-Muslims to exist until we're enough that they can't really discriminate against us, they can't really persecute us.
So do you have any plans to come up with another or an updated survey, the ex-Muslim survey after 2021?
No, I don't think so. Like that was a massive monumental task. Like,
okay,
I don't think
maybe after 10 years.
Maybe.
Okay.
Like getting
in 2031.
So as more ex-Muslims come out and are more public, it may be possible. But due to so many people being closeted, it's hard to get a large sample size. We surveyed like 500-600 people. It's a massive amount of people to actually survey and have those conversations. And we knew every single person was it was an online survey. This was actual people.
In person.
Yeah.
Oh.
So getting that volume is very, very hard. It was a massive, like it took us 2-3 years to do that. So we would love to do it down the road, and maybe the conditions will change, as you said, in 10 years where there are enough people publicly out there. But hopefully the need goes away as well. Like if enough ex-Muslims are public, then Gallup and these guys will start covering it.
Okay. So is there any specific moments during that period of doing those surveys Do you remember?
Sure, like what you alluded to was the results of that were amazing because they alluded to what we personally believe, like why people leave the faith. Like a lot of Muslims try to make it into there was some trauma or you were treated badly, but that survey very clearly indicated that it was human rights issues.
Human
it
rights,
was
yeah.
women's rights issues. Like you see the problems with Islam and you're like, screw this, I'm better than this, I'm not doing it. So it also provides a template for people like you and me that these are the things that resonate with Muslims to leave Islam, and we can use those to get more people to leave.
To better understand the problem and to work on more solution-based approaches in addressing this. Yeah, I would agree to that because that's why I even mentioned in the beginning itself that's how this helped me as a person, as a ex-Muslim activist in doing this activism. This helped me a lot, like to design or to shape our activism. To identify the spots where we have to focus on. So that's why maybe that's one reason maybe even I am receiving a lot of flake online and among the people here, like I'm too much focused on terrorism and other things because terrorism is a big issue. Even yesterday we had one and we lost almost 30 people. And it was like the terrorists from that region came to Kashmir and they were asking whether you are Hindu or Muslim, and they even asked them to recite the kalma, and then they were shooting the people. So it's exactly what religion teaches and how the terrorism is it's working, or it's a part of this religion. So you cannot just divorce religion and terrorism with regards to Islam. So like this, we can shape our activism. So
So one thing I would say about that, terrorism is a short-term problem. The solution, you can't, the idea needs to be challenged unless, so as long as there are a million Muslims, if it's 0.001% of people that are terrorists out of a million people, you'll still get a couple of people. So unless you delegitimize that idea, have doubt. So if you're 100% sure of something, you're willing to kill over it. If you're 90% sure, if you're 95% sure, you're not willing to kill over it. So even as a Muslim, if you have some doubts, if you recognize there are flaws in your religion, you won't be a violent person anymore. So challenging the ideas and disseminating that problem is how we will solve the terrorism issue. That's the only real way. It's an ideological war. You can't solve it by violence. The only way you can solve it is with better ideas and with breaking down the bad ideas.
Okay. That's right, and this is the same thing which we always keep telling the policymakers and the people who deal with all these things, and they never get this idea, because whenever a terrorist activity happens, like they just say that there's no religion for terrorism. These are done by some Muslims who are hijacked, and this is not real Islam, and all such sort of things.
I would say there's all religions can be pro-terrorism. So it's not necessarily, it's dogma, like certainty. So you're 100% certain about something, you're willing to kill for it. Like somebody was certain about Trump, so they tried to kill Trump. Like that happened. If you're 100% certain about anything, you can reach to violence as the only solution. But if you have doubts, you're not willing to do that. So we need to increase the doubt that the average religious person has.
So it's like planting cognitive dissonance.
Stroking that dissonance, forcing them to confront it. Like, what is happening? You see these two problems, they're opposite, and you believe both of them. What's going on? Think about it.
Okay. Thank you, Mohammed, for giving this perspective. Like, it's giving even more clarity to what we are doing, and your experience and the on the ground, the activities that you are doing with engaging with ex-Muslims and all such things is even more inspiring and even more insightful. So I think I should follow you more on this, the way that your activities are going on, and I'll be there stalking you.
Sounds great. I'm happy to help out in any way I can. Like, the more of us, the better, and the more we do, the better.
Right. So, and one thing which I really liked about your activity is that you're not just doing things like to just to do something for the sake of doing something. It's like you are designing some system which can help others. Like, you can copy the template. You are creating templates for anyone, any ex-Muslim to willing to do this or carry forward this activism. They can just take this template and they can do that. Simply they can do that. So I just got that idea. So thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for coming to this show and being with us here.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Yeah. Maybe we'll be meeting again for many other sessions like this. So
Sure.
if you have any doubts or any suggestions, you can just leave us a comment and we will be replying. We have 3 platforms, 2 YouTube channels and 1 Twitter. We are here, and you can just paste your suggestions and opinions and your questions and your disagreements and everything. So we are totally for the transformation with carrying forward the secular and the democratic values. So we are here. So thank you so much, Mohammed, and thank you for your activities. That's what I would say mostly. And 2 names that most people will be remembering. One is ex-Muslims of North America and one is apostate prophet. Any ex-Muslim, you take them, you call them and you ask them. These are the 2 names that they will say, and we have already ex-Muslims of North America and the person behind that. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
So
Yeah. So we have this Arabic nasheed as a close. So എല്ലാവർക്കും വളരെ നന്ദിയുണ്ട്. നമ്മൾ ഇന്ന് നടത്തിയ സംഭാഷണത്തിൻ്റെ ഒരു ആകത്തുക ഞാൻ ജസ്റ്റ് ഒന്ന് മലയാളത്തിൽ ഒന്ന് സമപ്പ് ചെയ്യാം. ജസ്റ്റ് സമപ്പ്. കുറേ കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറഞ്ഞു. ഇപ്പോൾ എന്നെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞല്ലോ, നമ്മൾ ഈ ഒരു എക്സ്-മുസ്ലിം ഒക്കെ ആവുന്നതിന് മുന്നേ, ഈ മുസ്ലിം ആയിരിക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് തന്നെ നമുക്ക് ഒരുപാട് ഡൗട്ട്സ് ഉണ്ടാകുമ്പോൾ നമ്മളത് ഓൺലൈനിൽ സെർച്ച് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു കാലഘട്ടത്തിലേക്ക് വന്നു. ആ കാലഘട്ടത്തിൽ നമ്മൾ എൻകൗണ്ടർ ചെയ്ത ഒരു വെബ്സൈറ്റ്, അതാണ് ഈ എക്സ്-മുസ്ലിംസ് ഓഫ് നോർത്ത് അമേരിക്ക. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു റാൻഡം വെബ്സൈറ്റ് അത്രയും നമ്മൾ അന്ന് കരുതിയില്ല. ബട്ട് ഇറ്റ് വാസ് നോട്ട് റാൻഡം. അത് നമ്മൾ ചെന്ന് കഴിയുമ്പോഴാണ് പിന്നെ അതിൻ്റെ ബാക്കി കാര്യങ്ങളിലേക്ക് വരുന്നു. അതിലേക്ക് പല കാര്യങ്ങൾ അതിലേക്ക് നമുക്ക് കൂടുതൽ കിട്ടുന്നൊരു അവസ്ഥ. പിന്നെ റെസ്റ്റ് വാസ് ഹിസ്റ്ററി. ഇന്നിപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ പച്ചയ്ക്ക് പറയുകയാണെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ മോസ്റ്റ് വ്യൂഡ് എക്സ്-മുസ്ലിം ചാനലായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ മാറുന്നു, അതിൻ്റെ പിന്നിൽ പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്ന ആളായിട്ട് മാറുന്നു എന്ന് വരുമ്പോൾ അതിന് ഈ ഇൻസ്പിറേഷൻ അത് തന്നതിൽ ചെറിയ കാര്യമൊന്നുമല്ല. സോ എനിക്കെപ്പോഴും ആഗ്രഹമുള്ളൊരു കാര്യം, ഇതിൻ്റെ പിന്നിൽ ആരാണ്, ഹൂ ഇസ് ബിഹൈൻഡ് ദിസ് വെബ്സൈറ്റ്, ഹൂ ഇസ് ബിഹൈൻഡ് ദിസ് ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻ, അതെപ്പോഴും അറിയേണ്ട ഒരു ആഗ്രഹം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. സോ ഫൈനലി വി ഹാഡ് ഹിം ഹിയർ. നമുക്കിവിടെ കിട്ടി. ഇന്ന് നമ്മൾ കുറേ കാര്യം സംസാരിച്ചു. ഏതൊരു എക്സ്-മുസ്ലിമിനെ വിളിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ പറയാനുള്ള കഥകൾ, അവരുടെ ജേണി, അതൊക്കെ ഓൾമോസ്റ്റ് സിമിലർ. ബട്ട് ഇവിടെ നമുക്ക് കേൾക്കേണ്ടിയിരുന്നത് എന്താണ് ഈ ആക്ടിവിറ്റി, ഇതിന് അവരുടെ ഡ്രൈവിംഗ് ഫോഴ്സ് എന്താണെന്ന് അറിയാമെന്നുള്ളതായിരുന്നു. സോ അത് നമുക്ക് വളരെ ബ്യൂട്ടിഫുള്ളി ഇവിടെ നമുക്ക് കിട്ടി. അതിലേറ്റവും പ്രധാനമാണ് നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യുന്നു എന്നുള്ളതിനേക്കാൾ ഉപരി ഇത് ബാക്കിയുള്ള ആളുകൾക്ക് ഒരു സോഷ്യൽ ചേഞ്ച് ഉണ്ടാകാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ടെംപ്ലേറ്റ്സ് ക്രിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് മുന്നോട്ട് പോകുക എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇറ്റ്സ് സംതിങ് ഹ്യൂജ്. ലൈക്ക് അതൊരു നോബിൾ ഐഡിയ. എന്താ പറയുക, നമ്മൾ സാധാരണ പറയുന്നത് ഈ സമൂഹത്തിലേക്ക് നമ്മൾ തിരിച്ചു കൊടുക്കുന്ന ആ ഒരു ഗ്രാറ്റിറ്റ്യൂഡ് എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുന്ന ഒരു രീതിയിൽ നമ്മൾ അതിനെ അളക്കുകയാണെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ കണ്ടുപഠിക്കണം കാക്കാമാർ. കാരണം എന്താണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ സ്വർഗം പ്രതീക്ഷിച്ചിട്ട് ഹൂറികളെ പ്രതീക്ഷിച്ചിട്ടൊന്നുമല്ല ഇത് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ഇത് സമൂഹത്തിൽ ഇതിൻ്റെ പ്രശ്നം കുറയാൻ, ഇതിൻ്റെ ഈ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുകൾ കുറയ്ക്കാൻ, ഇതുണ്ടാക്കുന്ന പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ ലഘൂകരിക്കാനുള്ള വഴികൾ, അത് നമ്മളിവിടെ ജീവിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഇവിടെ നമുക്കൊരു സ്വർഗമാക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള പണി മാത്രമേ ചെയ്യുന്നുള്ളൂ. അതിന് വേറെ പ്രതീക്ഷയൊന്നുമില്ല. അപ്പോൾ അതിലേക്ക് നമ്മളുടെ കോൺട്രിബ്യൂഷനാണ് ടു ട്രാൻസ്ലേറ്റ് ടു മലയാളം, ഹിന്ദി ആൻഡ് ഓൾസോ വിൽ ബി സപ്പോർട്ടിങ് ദം. നമ്മൾ മുന്നേ പറഞ്ഞതാണ്, ഇവിടെ നമ്മളത് സൂചിപ്പിച്ചിരുന്നു. സോ വി ഹാവ് ടു വർക്ക് ഫോർ ദാറ്റ്. അപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങളുടെ എല്ലാവരുടെയും ഹെൽപ്പ് എനിക്കതിൽ വേണം. അതിൻ്റെ ഡൊണേഷൻസ് കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ വെച്ച് നമുക്ക് ആളെ എംപ്ലോയ് ചെയ്തിട്ടാണ് നമുക്കത് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. ഒരു കോൺട്രാക്റ്റ് പോലെയാണത്. അതിൻ്റെ കൂടുതൽ ഡീറ്റെയിൽസ് ഞാൻ പിന്നീട് പറയാം. അത് സംസാരം കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടില്ല. അങ്ങനെ വന്നു കഴിയുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ഐഡിയ കിട്ടും എങ്ങനെയാണ് അത് ചെയ്യാൻ പോകുന്നത്. സോ അതുവരേക്കും നിങ്ങളുടെ ശ്രദ്ധ, നിങ്ങളുടെ കരുതൽ, നിങ്ങളുടെ സപ്പോർട്ട് തുടർന്ന് വേണം. നമ്മളുടെ കൂടുതൽ ഇന്ന് വേറെ ഒന്നും പറയാൻ നിൽക്കുന്നില്ല. നമുക്ക് ഇന്നൊരു മോർണിംഗ് നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. അവിടെ ടെററിസ്റ്റ് അറ്റാക്ക് നടന്നതിൻ്റെ ആ ഒരു കാര്യങ്ങളുമൊക്കെ ആയിട്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ട് നമ്മൾ കൂടുതൽ ഇതിന് വേറെ ഒന്നും ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല. തൽക്കാലം ഈ ഒരു കാര്യം ഇവിടെ പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് തൽക്കാലം ഞാനിവിടെ നിർത്തുന്നു. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് മറ്റു വിശേഷങ്ങളൊക്കെ ആയിട്ട് അടുത്ത ദിവസം നമുക്ക് ജോയിൻ ചെയ്യാം. സോ താങ്ക് യു all for joining with us today, and good evening, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are watching. Okay, so എല്ലാവർക്കും നന്ദി. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് വീണ്ടും പിന്നീട് കാണാം. ഓക്കെ, നമ്മളെ വീഡിയോ കണ്ടുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന ആളുകൾ ചാനൽ സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല എന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അത് ചെയ്ത് നമ്മൾ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യുക. മറ്റു രീതിയിൽ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്ന ആളുകൾക്ക് അതിൻ്റെ ഡീറ്റെയിൽസ് ഡിസ്ക്രിപ്ഷനിലുണ്ട്. നിങ്ങളുടെ ഓരോ ലൈക്കും ഷെയറും അതുപോലെ കമൻ്റ് ഇടുന്നതും ഈ വീഡിയോ അതിൻ്റെ താഴെ വരുന്ന കമൻറ്റുകൾക്ക് നിങ്ങൾ പ്രതികരിക്കുന്നതെല്ലാം തന്നെ വീഡിയോയുടെ റീച്ച് കൂടുന്നതിന് വലിയ തോതിൽ ഉപകാരപ്പെടുന്ന സംഗതിയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ട് അതിൽ നിങ്ങൾ ഏർപ്പെടണം എന്നും കൂടി ഞാൻ അഭ്യർത്ഥിക്കുകയാണ്. മറ്റുള്ള രീതിയിലുള്ള സപ്പോർട്ട് തുടർന്നും നിങ്ങളുടെ ഭാഗത്തുനിന്നുണ്ടാവും എന്ന് പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കുന്നു.